Australia, a continent so dry it is considered 1/3 desert. Plagued by drought, flood, and fire. In the face of such extreme adversity, an abundance of wildlife seems unlikely. And yet, it is home to more than 1 million species of plants and animals. Many of them found nowhere else in the world. In the space of 24 hours, the quest to survive will take Australia's wildlife to the edge. And not all will make it out alive. The only reason Australia is not the largest island on Earth is because it is a continent. It stretches nearly 4,000 kilometers from the temperate south to the tropical north. Instead of winter and summer, the north of Australia has a wet season and a dry season. An annual cycle that dictates the lives and behavior of the plants and animals. It is dawn at the start of the dry season. The life-sustaining rains are now over, and the wildlife of Australia will begin to face their biggest challenges. Kangaroos are Australian icons. The red kangaroo is the world's largest marsupial and can grow to more than 1.5 meters. Australia is home to around 50 million kangaroos. And in the light of dawn, this female is creating one more. She licks her pouch clean and rests on her tail to give birth. This tiny infant looks helpless. And yet, it instinctively climbs into its mother's pouch, where it finds a food source and a home to grow in for the next 8 months. Its mother is already supporting another joey. She is a marvel of reproduction. She can mate almost immediately and produce yet another embryo, which she can store until her newborn joey is ready to leave the pouch. So adult females may be permanently pregnant. For other Australian animals, the mission to breed is a much longer journey. "2,600 kilometers northwest of Perth lies Australia's Christmas Island. It is a remote island dominated by rainforest. For one group of animals, the end of the wet season means they are almost out of time. For most of the year, the Christmas Island red crab lives in the rainforest, far from the coast. But this morning, it's time for some to make a move. These males are leaving the forest, making their way to the ocean to mate. Millions have already gone before them. They are one of the last groups of the season, and they may have left it too late. The first obstacle is the road. Although efforts are made to keep these travelers away from traffic, the drive to mate overrides any sense of road safety. Some will pay the ultimate price long before they reach their destination. Their loss will not be wasted. They will provide a handy meal for those still on the march. To get to their destination, these venturers may walk over 1 kilometer a day. Australia wouldn't be Australia without its eucalyptus forests. Eucalyptus account for about 3/4 of all native forests in the country and support many different animal species. Commonly known as a gum tree, it has toxic sap in its wood and leaves. But one iconic animal depends almost entirely on gum leaves to survive. This koala mother, feeding in the cool of the morning, is discerning, eating only 20 of some 350 species of eucalyptus on offer. She is able to process the leaves in a very long gut. And even her joey is sampling this toxic delight. These leaves are full of volatile oils that are highly flammable. A storm that is thundering far on the horizon has the potential to destroy this forest. And thanks to the gum trees, this forest actually wants to burn. It needs to burn. While kites can escape, the only hope for this wombat is to retreat into its burrow. And even then, it may be overcome by smoke. But ashes from the fire will fertilize the ancient Australian soil and actually help future eucalyptus to germinate. Eucalyptus seeds rest inside a wooden capsule, which opens and releases the seeds into the fertile ashes after a fire. This morning's fire is part of a cycle of regrowth that can have far-reaching effects. Deep in the forest, one animal relies on past fires for its only food. Armed with a very long tongue, the numbat's weapon of mass destruction functions best when it is coated with sticky saliva. It is known as the banded anteater. But termites are the numbat's main food. Both prey and predator are dependent on the woodland for survival. Termites eat the heartwood of the trees, and numbats eat the termites. Up to 20,000 in a day. It doesn't have the strength to break into a termite mound, so it follows their daily schedule. When termites are active early in the morning, numbats cash in. Termites are one animal that can actually benefit from forest fire. Trees that are injured and scarred by fire can be easy prey to some termites, giving them quick access to the heartwood they eat. So, for the numbat, fire can be both friend and foe. The aftermath of this morning's fire is now a feeding opportunity for some. Insects are flushed out of hiding, and these ibis take advantage before the ground has even cooled. The wombat has survived the fire, but its main food source, native grasses, has gone. These survivors are now refugees and will need to find a new home and a new food supply. Luckily, the Australian animals are as resourceful as the country is tough. And beyond the burnt forest, there are still green oases. A billabong is a pool of water that is cut off from its parent river when water levels drop. Water levels can range from a mere puddle to 5 meters at the height of wet season. While this landlocked billabong can trap aquatic animals, above the waterline there is an ever-changing parade of visitors. So one fish has set its sights sky high. This banded archerfish has found a way to conjure tasty meals from thin air. With a shooting range of almost 1.5 meters, the archerfish is the aquatic sniper of North Australia, turning something that was out of reach into a morning delivery. But these murky waters are also home to a fearsome ancient reptile. The saltwater crocodile, despite its name, can inhabit both salt and fresh water. It is free to range from the open sea, through rivers and wetlands, to the billabong. A formidable predator, it can easily take down a wallaby from the water's edge. But not until it is fully grown. Reaching maturity is against the odds for hatchling crocs. Less than 1% will make it. Luckily, the herons and egrets seem distracted by stranded fish this morning, as water levels recede with the end of the wet. This youngster may be able to negotiate a passage as it seeks a new home. One of the biggest dangers this hatchling faces is being eaten. Even if it makes it to juvenile status, it can still be eaten by another male defending its territory. This saltwater crocodile mother has been protecting her nest for around 3 months. But a single lapse is all it takes. When she returns to the water to regulate her body temperature, a thief moves in. Inside her nest is a banquet. And nothing gets past a monitor lizard. It uses its forked tongue to follow a scent. Stealing from a saltwater crocodile is a risky game. One egg leads to another. This looting treads a fine line between a free meal and a last meal. This protective mother will be on high alert because her eggs are due to hatch. The wet season has produced an explosion of speargrass that provides nesting cover for the magpie geese. They are the only waterfowl that breed in groups of 3. One male and 2 females form a blended family, sharing all responsibilities, incubating eggs and caring for the young until the following season. These are social birds that feed together and travel together, moving as a flock. But the safety of this flock is about to be breached. A full pantry of geese is a tantalizing sight for Australia's wild dog. For this lone dingo, a bird on a plate is hard to resist. But like any dog chasing a bird, catching one is unlikely. A stealthy underwater hunter has a much better chance of catching these birds. This crocodile is superbly adapted to the water. It can sneak in unnoticed. Slowing its heartbeat down to 2 to 3 beats per minute, it can stay underwater for at least an hour. It has a transparent eyelid that protects its eye, but still allows for vision. Even when it surfaces, it is only the tip of the iceberg that shows. She is the largest living reptile in the world. And a magpie goose is merely a snack. Some snacks in the billabong are not so tasty. These tadpoles, normally a welcome lunchtime treat, are being rejected. Barramundi are not fussy. They will eat just about anything. But these tadpoles are dangerous. From egg to adult, all cane toads are packing poison. These toads don't drink. They absorb water from their surroundings, emerging like a nightmare from the underworld. They were introduced to Australia to control beetles that were damaging sugarcane crops. But the toads were damaging too. They have no natural predators in Australia and breed at any time of year. They have invaded most areas of the north with a devastating effect on wildlife. The toads are fearless and have a taste for dog food. But biting this cane toad should come with a health warning, because trying to eat it can be a death sentence. As the midday temperature soars to 30 degrees, sometimes even the shade of a tree is not enough. Even Australian animals can be imperiled by heat. A kangaroo licks its arms to cool down. As the saliva evaporates, it cools the body. But the heat is not the only threat. And this dingo is not alone. Kangaroos are easily spooked. The midday heat will put both parties to the test. Hunting kangaroo is ambitious for one dingo. But hunting in a pack changes the odds. While the kangaroo may be faster, it is outnumbered. Eventually, it is overwhelmed. Rainforests make up less than 1% of Australia. And yet, 30% of the country's mammals and birds live here. Unlike its grounded cousins, this mammal has adapted to live in the trees. The tree kangaroo feeds on the leaves of at least 37 species of plants, some of them toxic. It has never been seen drinking water, so it is assumed that all its needs are met by the plants it eats. In the absence of monkeys, the tree kangaroo has claimed the rainforests of North Australia as its home. Its tail, though, is used strictly for balance. It cannot grip like a monkey's. But surprisingly, in true monkey style, and without fear, it can leap. For some animals, the end of the wet is birthing season. No small task when hanging upside down. This flying fox, or fruit bat, is in labor. And gravity is not on her side. She can turn upside down and hang like a monkey for some functions. But this upside-down world is alien to a bat and doesn't last long. She continues her labor in a more familiar position. A new generation of flying fox emerges. And yet, it cannot fly. She will need to keep it safe until its bones are strong enough for flight. And that will take weeks. But keeping safe here is a full-time job. The bats share these trees with a creature that has a built-in tracking device for warm-blooded animals. The carpet python is not venomous, but it is still dangerous. Death is by suffocation, and it swallows prey whole. Evasive action is required. But there is more peril that comes from the air. These fruit bats' mid-afternoon siesta is in for a rude awakening. Although this white-bellied sea eagle feeds mainly on creatures from the ocean, bats are also on the menu. Plucking a bat from the shelter of the trees is unlikely, but the eagle's presence causes panic. And panic causes flight. When bats are airborne, they become vulnerable to this master of the skies. This eagle claims the prize and returns to the rich environment of the Cape York coast. Offshore is the largest living structure on the planet, the Great Barrier Reef. Stretching some 2,300 kilometers, the reef is about the size of Italy. It supports a massive range of animals, from the largest to the smallest. And some of the smallest are the brightest. A kaleidoscope of color is created by the tiny animals that make up corals. The reef is home to 600 different types. Hard corals have a solid skeleton that supports them, while soft corals are flexible and often mistaken for a plant. If soft corals are the plants of the reef, then anemones are the flowers. With the ability to paralyze prey with their stinging tentacles, they are an unlikely host. But they've become a circus tent, home to a wide range of clownfish. The survival of these clowns is based on an intimate trade-off with the anemone. The clownfish gets a home that protects it from predators. Once it is acclimatized to the stings by rubbing its belly and ventral fins on the ends of the tentacles. The anemone takes rent in the form of food scraps and house cleaning. The clownfish cleans off parasites and will also defend its home from being eaten by other fish. It seems both parties contribute to a sense of safety and well-being. This is one happy neighborhood. This innocent-looking shell is not as passive as it seems. It is, in fact, a predator. To keep its prey chilled out, the cone snail puts chemicals in the water that sedate the fish. Using a telescopic tube that can extend twice the length of its body, it edges ever closer. On contact, it unleashes a harpoon through the tube that is loaded with venom powerful enough to kill 15 people. The fish is paralyzed in seconds. The hunter can now bury itself in the sand for a couple of days, digesting its meal at a snail's pace. As the afternoon cools, animals no longer have to hide from the heat. Their predators also arise. This inland taipan is on patrol. Burrows provide safety, but can also be a death trap. This predator carries enough venom to kill a rat 40,000 times over. Being cornered in a burrow is usually fatal. This loss of life is offset by a prolific breeder. The cane-field rat. She can produce up to 6 pups at only 12 weeks old. And the end of the wet is peak breeding season. But there is another youngster on the prowl. This coastal taipan may be young, but it packs an adult punch. A cold-blooded killer with a lightning strike. The result is almost immediate. But this youngster's eyes may have been bigger than its stomach. It follows the trail of another target. This may be a more realistic approach when swallowing prey whole. These rats may be a curse to the sugarcane growers, but they are a bounty for the taipan. The red crabs of Christmas Island are on a mission. They need to reach the shore to mate, avoiding the heat of the day to protect body moisture. But there is another resident here, waiting to block their path. Thought to be one of the most invasive species on Earth, the yellow crazy ant is aggressive and competitive. When disturbed, these ants go crazy, and that is how they've earned their name. They conquer prey by their overwhelming numbers. They also have a taste for crab. They spray formic acid that irritates and burns to subdue their prey. This is chemical warfare, targeting eyes and leg joints. The acid blinds and immobilizes, causing death by dehydration. The ants will eat the flesh from the inside out. For these crabs, it is journey's end. On another island, there are crabs of epic proportions. This is the largest known land crab, and it eats the world's largest nut. The harvest of this nut is left to gravity. The coconut and the coconut crab are a match made in heaven. This crab has enough strength to literally poke the eyes out of a coconut and split it open. Competition for such a prize can result in tests of dominance. With crabs this big, size still matters. The meat of the coconut is not the only meat these crabs consume. In the canopy above, the survival of this chick is dependent on its parents. Luckily, the red-footed booby is well equipped for fishing. It is an accomplished plunge diver. It is also nimble enough to catch flying fish out of thin air. But feeding a chick is only part of its survival. The stability of the nest is also critical. And this is the parent's only precious chick. Just as the coconut falls, sometimes gravity claims life from a different tree. And in the shelter of the forest floor, there are some willing arms to catch it. This windfall will be devoured in the privacy of the burrow. The male crabs of Christmas Island must reach the shore if they are to mate. But the coastline of most of the island is a cruel cliff face of up to 20 meters. Their mission drives them to defy gravity and make for the beach. This cast of crabs is one of the last groups to journey here for the season. There have been many who have already mated and headed back to the forest. The sea is a life giver, replenishing body moisture and salts. But these are land crabs out of their depth. Each crab, desperate to rehydrate, faces yet another horror: drowning. Triggerfish help themselves. Against all the odds, though, the first stage of this epic migration is complete. The shoreline is where males and females unite. And this mating couple progress the journey to the next stage. She will brood her eggs on the beach and then release them into the ocean. As daylight comes to an end, he will start the long trek back to the forest. The onset of night brings out many sets of nocturnal wings. This swarm of bats is on the hunt for flying insects. Bats use echolocation to fly at night, using sound waves that reflect back to them to locate prey. But using sound waves has a drawback. Moths hunted by bats have the sharpest hearing in the animal kingdom and will take evasive action, sometimes dropping to the ground. although this can be equally dangerous. This long-eared bat has another plan. Its hearing is so sensitive, it can shut down echolocation and follow the sound of moth wings beating. It hovers, poised for an attack. In the darkness, the sound of tiny wings gives this moth away. But the leaf makes no sound. It is a surprise obstacle. When wings stop beating, prey is lost in the dark. But this moth can't play statues forever. And that is its downfall. Hunting is thirsty work. Getting a drink is an easy task. But there is an ambush predator sharing the drinking fountain. These freshwater crocodiles are native to North Australia. They will bide their time with an ever-watchful eye on the bats. Patience that pays off. And tonight, there is a new hunter in town. After months of guarding her nest through the wet season, there are calls in the air tonight that this salty mother has been waiting for. The monitor she saw off this morning will be the last intruder to her lair. Her eggs are hatching, and she is there to help. While her jaws may have the greatest bite force of any living animal, she is also capable of the most gentle of care. The temperature of her nest has determined the sex of these hatchlings. While mild temperatures produce males, anything above or below that will yield females. Regardless of their sex, they are already well equipped for survival. They know how to swim, and their jaws get straight to work. This will be their home, with their mother to protect them, for around 2 months. After that, they will take their chances. This male is a contradiction. He is a redback spider without a red back. Red is reserved for the female. He is attempting to mate with her, even though she could easily overpower him. This is a dangerous website, and he must approach with care. If he is mistaken for food, all will be lost. He makes it to first base and immediately begins to release sperm into one of her storage organs. To make sure his mission is not disturbed and that she is not distracted, he then offers her a meal. himself. A suicide somersault. She makes a start on the meal, squirting digestive juices onto his abdomen. In the ultimate parental sacrifice, he continues to offer her the gift of life, as she quietly drains the life out of him. With his duties complete, he can log out. Back on Christmas Island, a receding tide before dawn and a waning moon are the trigger for an annual event. These females have already mated and spent 2 weeks on the beach brooding their eggs. And now they must release them. The eggs need to reach the ocean if they are to hatch. Each female puts her life on the line to give her offspring the best possible chance. If luck is on their side, the eggs will hatch in the sea, the larvae growing into baby crabs over the next 4 weeks. If the tide can bring them back to shore, each baby crab will retrace the steps of its parents back into the forest. And in 4 years' time, they will take part in the same epic migration that brought them to life. From desert to rainforest, the landscapes of Australia are as diverse as the wildlife. The wet season in the north is when plants explode into life. And the animals follow suit, rearing their young in this time of plenty. But this is also the driest inhabited continent, where animals have adjusted eating habits and breeding cycles to survive. It is years of evolution that have enabled these creatures to make it through the last 24 hours.